Mhm.
Yeah, yeah. So thank you everyone for joining the Mulesoft Meetup Chicago. Today we have Aranak, who is going to present us on the external identity management with Okta, and how easy is it to set up external identity management, especially for client management for external facing APIs in the Anypoint platform. And then we are going to also have a trivia and a quiz trivia in the end. So hopefully you enjoy the meetup, and keep sharing your suggestions to me. And if you are interested in presenting in Chicago Mulesoft meetups, please reach out to me. I'll share my email in the chat. I hope you already have my email, but in case you do not have, I'll share that in the chat. And so without further ado, I give the stage to Aranak to blow it away.
Hey, thanks, Prashanjit. Thanks, everyone, for joining us today. I am Aradniak. I am currently part of our Capgemini Mulesoft integration practice. So, in this Mulesoft domain, I have been for 5 years. And apart from that, I have around 11 plus years of experience in the integration domain. And I have recently worked for one of our client in the retail restaurant chain. I have implemented their API security module from the scratch, starting from the solution, design, implementation, all defined kind of troubleshooting, performance tuning. So yeah, that definitely gave me some good insight about the Mulesoft security aspect. And also I work with, from our practice side, I work with multiple clients to understand their requirements, sometimes how they want to leverage the benefit of Mulesoft as a product, what kind of challenge they are facing. So yeah, these are the typical job I perform in my capacity currently. So yeah, when I perform all these things, so one of the common asks that I have come across from multiple clients, like the security aspect of the APIs. I mean, how MuleSoft can protect your APIs when you are exposing them in the internet. Because one of the key aspect of your APIification is you will expose your APIs for your clients without much involvement, manual involvement and all this. So they can directly go to your portal, they can see your APIs, how it is designed, what are the inputs, outputs you can pass, and they should be able to mock, and they should be able to finally use that API. But when you are actually exposing API for such internet facing clients, so on the other hand, you are actually opening the door sometimes for those vulnerable attacks for your platform. So there, we need to understand how to make it a rock solid security for our API platform. And here we have some good answer. They have some cool and nice feature what you can implement with few clicks and some less invasive code change, so that your API platform can be secured enough. Even though after that, if there is any kind of vulnerability or malicious attack you find, you can actually get control over it and can stop access for those clients or those kind of vulnerable network domains. So today my presentation will be around that kind of security implementation, where we will using, as Prashanjit mentioned, the Okta as our third-party external identity provider, and how we can integrate Okta with MuleSoft with the platform provided feature. I mean, those are out-of-box feature. So that is what I am going to show you. And just before I start, I would like to mention, since this feature, I mean, the Okta integration, like third-party identity provider integration feature, is kind of, it comes with the higher licensing, higher licensing term. So I will not be able to show you the live demo, but I will actually walk you through some steps as I capture the screenshot, which is more or less similar. You have to follow. You need to implement the same for your organization, this third-party identity provider integration. So let's start. Okay, so this is what I tried to capture the solution requirement. So here I start with the non-functional requirement. So the security aspect for this, API, we sometimes call it, I mean, altogether security can be considered as a separate entity, or sometimes we can consider it as part of our non-functional requirement, that is NFR. So here the ask was like, whatever with the publicly exposed API we have in our API stack, we have to we have to secure them from unauthorized access. And so when we call the security, so first we have to make sure whoever with the user or client is trying to access my API, they are authenticated before using my API or accessing my API. So once this is confirmed, then we will go for the authorization. Though the user is authentic, we need to make sure the user is supposed to make call to that particular API, because within the user also you can actually differentiate. Okay, this user will be able to only make the get calls, and this user will be able to make both read write calls. So this kind of authorization part we can differentiate. And the other requirement is, if there is any vulnerability we find about these APIs, so we should be able to quickly disable those clients. So these are the non-functional requirements we had. And then the technical requirements was some design consideration was there. So the client who asked us to implement this solution, so they already had Okta in their current technical landscape. So they were more willing to make use of their existing platform as much as possible, instead of going for a new product or like starting that from the scratch to build that security framework. So that was their wish. So we had in mind, and all APIs were built in Mulesoft cloud platform. So that is there. And from the security standpoint, so what is like most modern approach of securing your APIs is OAuth 2.0 compliant JWT. So that is the very popular way of securing your APIs, which definitely helps you to protect your APIs from this kind of unauthorized and unauthenticated access. And so in this JWT process, we need to validate the JWT once we receive that from the client, and if it is valid, then only we will allow the call further. So that was the requirement in a brief. So let's go to the next one. Now, when we decided to go with Okta, I mean, what was already there in client's existing landscape, so we just thought of analyzing what are the benefits we can make out of it. So this is what I here. So when we use Okta as the identity provider, so the first thing what we found, like Mulesoft has very simple steps to integrate with Okta from the Mulesoft platform. It is the out of the box wizard where you can go. I will actually show you all this in the later slides, how we can just with some few clicks and very minimal changes in the YAML, we can actually implement this Okta integration from Mulesoft. And also, since client already have Okta in their because many clients, they use Okta as their identity provider, so you just can go ahead and can simply make use of that existing identity provider. And also, if you are going with Okta, so you don't need to think about or any other storage where you need to maintain all your the security data, because maintaining secured and confidential data is kind of another challenge. So you have to make sure your data is properly secured and no loopholes you are leaving. So you really don't need to think about it. And also Okta has very nice GUI which actually helps you to log in and then go there and can kind of access all your security credentials, so that you can just if there is any kind of issues or security threat you encountered, so you can go there and can update, modify, or delete the profile, so you can immediately stop the access of those particular clients. The next point is more emphasizing that fact, how we can quickly do that. So the same I already explained in the last point, so it is just how we can go to the Okta GUI and can this is something I want. Once I show you that Okta screen, you will probably understand what is the best way to do it. And the secret keys is something that actually you can rotate if you think your secret key is somehow compromised. So this can be done from your Anypoint platform itself. So that is something you can do. And so these are the benefits you can get out of this implementation. Next, sequence diagram. So here in the sequence diagram, you can see the first is the actor is my client. They are making call to my Okta server. So we will expose one Okta endpoint to our client, and client has to make call to that Okta endpoint with certain security credentials. And Okta is going to validate that security credential as it is stored in their server, and they will issue that access token embedded within the JWT, and that is encrypted. So client doesn't have access to decrypt that token at all. So they just have to get the token, and they have to pass the same token when they are making the actual API call. In the subsequent call, they have to pass that token as the authorization header. Now we will be using the Mulesoft out of the box policy, which will connect to the Okta server, because Okta has generated my token, and the encryption and all those were done by Okta. So we have to connect to Okta, validate, okay, the token that I received, that is valid or not, and the client who is making this call, if he is a authentic client or not. So Okta will do that validation. If it is successful, then only that policy will allow the traffic to go further and access the API. So that's how it works. And also I would like to mention here, so in the same way, we can use the basic authentication that we use using that another out of the box Mulesoft policy, that is client ID enforcement policy, which is very commonly used when people just want, if they don't want much sophisticated security system, just they want to do some basic security, they go with this client ID enforcement. That also will work with Okta. So it's not like if you are going to Okta, that will not work. So that will also work as is, just you apply the policy, you pass the client ID, client secret, that will get validated against Okta, and API call will proceed further. So that is what it is, and that's how it works. So, and when the backend responds with all the details, so the response will go back to your client. So yep, and the next slide is more detailed implementation, how we implement when we design it, how the design looks like. So this is the design as I mentioned. So the layer here, what you see with some symbols of this mobile app, some other internet facing device like some laptops or desktop, or which is trying to call your API. So they can call your this Okta server directly, generating the token here, as I have shown, the client token requested with the security credential that is shared with that specific client. So we will be actually creating specific security credential which is dedicated to the client, so that only that client will have access to the credential, and they are supposed to get the access token back with the JWT. So here now, once it comes to the Okta server, this is something I already mentioned. User validation will happen. It will first validate whether that the security credential that are passed by the those internet facing applications, whether those are correct security credentials or not. And once it is successfully validated, then the token will be generated, and then we will actually encrypt that token within the JWT, and we will send it back. So here I would just add one more point. So sometimes you may see the scenario where your Okta endpoint is not publicly exposed. Mostly organization they expose their Okta endpoint for the internet facing users so that they can directly call this endpoint. But if for some reason the Okta is not exposed to the public, you can simply create a Mulesoft proxy, just like any other proxy. So create a Mulesoft proxy and then make call to that proxy, and the proxy will pass, because Mulesoft in most of the organization, Mulesoft will be connected to your core organization. So they will be so they will take care connectivity with your Okta server, and that is sorry. Oh no. So that will actually help you to connect the Okta internally, and once that connectivity is established, so you will get back the token. Now once you get back the token, you need to just pass that token for the subsequent API calls. So here I have shown the option with the dedicated load balancer, which is like the DLB provided by Mulesoft. And after the dedicated load balancer, the call will be intercepted by that Mulesoft policy. After that, it will be intercepted by the Mulesoft policy, and that policy. So the policy works in such a way, like each policy instance will be dedicated to each of your API. So when you apply the policy, so there is a policy instance created against your application that is deployed. So that particular policy instance is working against that particular API, within the API control. So now that Mulesoft API, within the API, that policy will try to connect the Okta server, and it will try to validate the token that was created in the previous step. And once the token is successfully validated, then the policy will allow the call to propagate further to the Experience API. I mentioned Experience API because we are talking about here mostly the publicly exposed API, which is in most of the cases our Experience APIs. So that's how our design look like. Okay, let's move on. Okay, so now I will actually walk you through this Okta setup. So I didn't capture the very first screen where you need to log Okta. So anybody, you can create your own Okta account. They probably allow you to access the Okta these applications for 30 days free. If you want to play around, you can go there and can set up your access, and then you can log in there. And once you log in, you will find one option called authorization server. And once you go to this authorization server, you have to create a new application. So those are just like common steps, like create a new application. And once you click create new app, automatically pop up with some details. And here actually I have mentioned those details what you need to capture, because you need to use them when you try to integrate your Mulesoft platform with the Okta server. So there it will give you such a setting screen once your application. So you will get such a setting screen. If you go there, you can see some issuer name. You need to capture that as well. And this metadata URI, that is important, because this metadata URI is something you have to put that in the browser. If you click that, and it will give you one JSON payload. So that is a JSON spec. So if you just get that, if you download that spec, so you will get all these details within that JSON payload. It is very simple. I didn't show that, just I didn't want to make it a long slides. So here you can actually get these details like issuer, then client registration URL, authorization header, token introspect, client ID and secret, authorization URL, token URL, and token introspect URL. So all these you can get from this JSON file. and you have to keep them somewhere so that you can use them later. So once you are done in these steps, so now you can go to your Anypoint platform. So in Anypoint platform, you can log into that platform and you can click that access management. So I have just captured the screens from that access management. So if you do not have access to this particular screen access management in this portal, you have to probably contact your organization administrator. He can get you that access. And once you get access here, so you can go to this client provider, and there you can actually get 3 options. These are like 3 different type of platform, like the direct integration you can do from here. So for our case, to integrate with Okta, we will select we will select this OpenID Connect Dynamic Client Registration, which will actually allow you to integrate with Okta. So that's what it is. And then what we will do, we will just click that screen, and it will actually ask for exactly the same details what I have captured in that JSON payload. So those details are pretty much like the same one, the same name, same key you will find. You just need to put them in place, and if you click OK, it will just allow you to set up the Okta integration. So it will actually it will confirm your Mulesoft platform is able to connect with Okta. So still your API is not secured. You just establish the connectivity. So if if you are using any other connectors like DB connectors or other connectors from Mulesoft, so you can just create the put all the connection parameters, and you can create test connection, and it will actually allow you to check whether the connectivity is established or not. Here the same thing we have done. And once the connectivity is established, now we are going to select which environment we are going to protect through this Okta security. So here you see, you have to go to that environment tab within the access management, and they are actually here. For us, it was only 2 environments there, but you can see actually the total number of environments that you have listed in your organization, and you have been granted the access. So you can select that particular environment, and once you set that environment, so that environment will be protected through Okta integration. I mean, you are actually enable Okta based security for that environment. Now it's up to you whether you want to secure your API using Okta or not. That step also I will show you later. So here, if you select that environment, you have to put the client ID and client secret. So if you remember in the previous slide, I have shown like you have to get the client ID and client secret from Okta. This is actually client ID, client secret, not to share with your client. It is the client ID and client secret which you will put in Mulesoft platform. Here, the Mulesoft will be acting as the client of Okta. So that client ID and client secret go here in the platform, and here you can select the Okta instance that you created, and it will actually allow you to protect that environment through Okta IDP. So let's go next. So here, once your environment is protected, once your environment is enabled with Okta, now it's up to you if you want to protect your application or API using that Okta IDP. So in order to do that, you have to actually make some changes in the RAML, but it is not that invasive changes. It is very minimal changes, I would say. You have to add one trait called secured by, that is OAuth _2_0, which actually comes as a standard trait of the RAML. And also you have to add few other settings, as you see here in the bottom portion of this screenshot. URL and access token URI and like authorization grants. So these are something will actually enforce your client to use the OAuth 2.0 security. Without that, they cannot make the API call without getting a proper OAuth 2.0 implementation. So That is the change you need to do in the RAML, and that is the only change in your code, you can say, though it's not directly in the code, but probably you have to change the RAML and you have to include the updated RAML in your code base. So now the next part is your environment is enabled with Okta. You allowed your API to use the Okta. Now the next step is once you enable your API with Okta, so your client has to security credential like the client ID and client secret. So that client ID and client secret actually you can generate from Exchange. There you can go and you can just request the access against that particular API instance. So you have to go to that Okta, I mean the Anypoint platform screen, and you have to click your API from the Exchange, and under the Exchange it will give you all the API instances based on different environments and different version. So you have to know your correct API instances, what you have created from the Anypoint manager. So those who are already using Mulesoft, they must be knowing, like we have option of promoting the API in the Anypoint manager, and or like creating the new API in the Anypoint manager for managing the API. So once you do that, you will be able to make use of this screen, and the instance will be registered in the Exchange, and there you can go and can request access. Once you request access, it will actually create that client credential. As I mentioned here, the third point, you can see this will actually create your client credential in the Okta authorization server. So though you are requesting from Anypoint platform, but it will internally connect the Okta server, and it will store the client ID and secret in the Okta server, and it will actually give you that client ID and client secret. So then you are actually you have that client ID and client secret. And here in the second screenshot, if you see, we have to actually follow a few manual steps, because till the latest release, what I know, there are few things that you have to manually do, because this Mulesoft request has like only authorization code grant type, which is allowed for requesting this access through Okta server. But in our case, we mostly prefer to use the client credential. So the client credential grant is the most common grant for client ID, client secret. So for that, you have to go to that API client that you created in the Okta server, in the authorization server. In the earlier slide, I have shown that. So there you have to go, and if you see, you will find some registration for this your client ID, client secret. If you click that, you will get to see this new API client has been created, because you will give from this screen in the Anypoint platform. If you see, I have given that name when I was creating my when I was requesting for the access. So my sample API client one, the same you can find here, that has been registered in the Okta. So if you go, just check this client credential box, because that doesn't come default from the Anypoint screen. And once you select that, now it's all set. And also you can actually add some scope. So if you remember, I was talking about allowing specific grant. So if you want to make, you want to give users some grant like get, post, put, like only read, write both. So this kind of grant you can allow. So here you can just go to the settings, and you can find some option called scope, and you can create a scope, and you can name the scope with read. So it will only allow you the get access. Okay, so we are all set. Now the time to generate the token from. So here, if you go to this, we have used Postman. You can use any kind of mocking tool. So we have used that, the URL, Okta URL directly. And as I said, if you don't have access to your Okta server from the internet, you can use some Mule proxy. In that case, you have to use the Mule DLB. But yeah, the request format will look almost same. I mean the URL format and the request details what we are passing. So you just need to make call to this URL along with that username and password that you created from the request access screen in the Anypoint platform from Exchange. So there you will be given one client ID and client secret. So once you submit that request, it will automatically generate the client ID and client secret, and that client ID and client secret you can put in your this mocking screen. And once you put them, and it is a post call obviously because it will create some JWT token, so it should respond if everything up you are authentic user, so you are supposed to get back such a JWT token. So this is the token will look like. It has some expiry, so this is like something you can set from the Okta server. You can change it, but if you change it, it will be changed for that entire environment. So this is not customizable for each client. So that's how it is, and scope it mentions here. So now you are good to go. With this token, you have to pass this token as standard authorization header. Again, I haven't captured that as the in this demo, but it is just a standard practice, like where you can use this JWT token as a bearer authorization header when you are making the API call. Now your policy, the policy that we the policy screen. Okay, I think in the very beginning I showed that policy what we are using. So the policy will intercept this token and will send it to Okta for validation, and after successful validation, the API call will go as expected. So that's the overall Okta integration from Mulesoft. Like the out of the box feature, this is the vanilla implementation. We haven't done anything custom here. That's even when we actually implemented, I would say we didn't find it much challenging. It's, I would say, like very simple steps we had to follow, and we are able to establish this connectivity. So that's what the presentation I had about this Mulesoft Okta integration. So here given some links where you can find some details about how to set up the Okta authorization server, how can you set up the IDP, those you can go through. So yeah, I am done with my demo. Now is the time for Q&A. So Prashanjit, I'm not sure if a participant can ask question directly or they need to that in message.
Yeah, I asked to put the question in the chat. So there is one question I can see from Akshay. So I'll just read it out. So all the clients making calls for JWT generation will need to have to use the same set of username and password.
Oh, no, not really. So every time you are going to onboard any new client, so there are two ways you can follow. One way is you are generating the client ID. I mean, in your organization, someone is dedicatedly responsible for that. You will be generating the client ID, client secret by requesting access to the API, and you will generate separate client ID, client.
Hey, Arannak, wait, I think I mistakenly disconnected you from the host. So we lost you for a time. Can you try to speak now? Are you able to listen to me? I don't know. This feature is giving me a lot of trouble.
Oh, okay. I got. Hope
Yeah,
you
you
should.
got muted. Yeah, sorry about that. It was my mistake. Actually, I was looking forward to turn everybody's mic on, but instead, actually, it's a kind of a one-touch button for
That's fine.
everything.
Yeah. Anything first time you must be having some challenge. And that's the learning curve, right,
So
for us.
yeah, I think I think you can just repeat maybe the thing that you were saying for the JWT generation. Just one more time. Maybe just summarize it.
Yeah, I answered about that. What I answered about that question, like if all client needs to have the same client ID or secret or
I
not,
think you can
were
repeat
you
that
able to
one.
hear that? Okay, that's fine. So yeah, what I was just explaining. So in order to control this access thing, how each client will have their own yeah, client ID and secret pair. It's not like all client will be using the same client ID and secret. So we can actually manage this, access control by in two ways. One is like in your organization you can have one dedicated person who will be creating the client id secret pair for specific clients, and he will share that with that client only. That is one way of doing it. He can go to exchange and create that client id secret, and that will actually make sure you are sharing your client id secret with your clients. Excuse me. And the other option is if you create the public portal, you can just go to, I mean, your client can go to the public portal. If you allow them to access the public portal, they can go to the public portal and they can request their own access, and they will get a new set of client id and secret pair, and they need to use their client id and secret as they are allowed, and like whatever be the grant they have given, so they will be able to access like that. So yeah, that's it is. uh I see some other question. That is the latest one is client
Yeah, I was
management,
just
not for identity
responding
management.
to.
Yes, yes. Yeah, it is more like client's identity management. I think that will be the appropriate term.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Yes. And the next question is from Charlie, how the JWT is used for access control. Yeah, so Charlie, so if you remember in the slide what I was showing, so when you when you registered the client ID client secret in the Okta server, there I mentioned like you can create one scope. So if you create the scope, there in the scope section you can actually mention read and write. So basically you are allowing your user based on their scope what type of api access they will be having. So that will actually confirm your api access level. Prasenjit, hope
Yeah.
they are able to listen
We
to
are
us,
able to
right?
listen to you. Yeah.
Okay.
I see another question from Thangaraj Duraiswamy, which is like in future, if we want to change from Okta to a different provider, what steps would be involved? Yeah, I think it will be minimal steps because I think you just need to change the first part where you just need to connect to a different identity provider, and so use the token of that provider. And so one just thing to keep in mind that for client management now you can use multiple identity providers within the Anypoint platform. So Anypoint platform from April is supporting multiple identity providers for client management. So a
Yes.
different instance for pre-production, different instance for production, different identity provider, or a different instance of the same identity provider, everything is supported. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think the next question is from Rajiv. Do you need to, no, in future, do you need to change? Yeah, that is there. And do you need to follow any specific algorithm for JWT? No, I think when you are going for Okta, Okta your identity provider, Okta has its own set of, algorithms and everything that they are using to generate the JWT. So you really don't need to, think about those things directly. Okta is going to take care of that. I think that's, kind of advantage we get when we use Okta. They are taking care of
But it doesn't give an option to choose which algorithm we want to use. At the Okta, would that does that provide?
So when you go for the specific grant type, that grant type has its own set of algorithms. So I really didn't explore if somehow we can customize that or not, but so far what I remember, we didn't get chance to customize that. It came out of the box. That's
Yeah,
what
I think
say.
it depends on the identity provider, but I can check and maybe pull back. Yeah.
Correct.
Okay, few more. I see some questions coming up. What are the advantages of using a third-party OAuth versus a default provider provided by Mule? So here, Bharat, I'll just say this, that this actually depends on the organization. Or every organization have registered with some identity providers. Like some uses Ping Federate, some uses Okta, some uses OpenAIM, some you can use Shibboleth. So, and as long as the the underlying thing is the same, which is the OAuth 2, then we provide the flexibility for the organization to connect to their identity provider of their choice. Mule also can act as an identity provider. You are right, and it follows this OAuth 2 platform. So from a OAuth 2 protocol. So from a protocol perspective, there is no difference between using Mule or versus using an external identity provider. But this is mostly up to the organization to make a choice. Arannak, you want to add anything?
Correct. It is design wise also it is same almost.
Yeah. Okay, I see some more questions coming up. Can we have more than one identity provider for the same API? So for the same API in different environments, yes. So same API within the same environment and the same API instance, obviously no, because how will you do that? And then, but definitely for a same API in a different environment, in production have a different identity provider, in a non-production environment can have a different identity provider. You can configure it in a different business group. So at the business group level, at the environment level, and up to the API level. So obviously at this API, at the same instance, for a same environment, obviously has to go with one identity provider. Otherwise, how will you make that decision?
No, but I think his question is more like, if we have multiple APIs in one environment, can we use Okta for one API and basic authentication for other API?
Yeah, I think so.
To your question, answer is yes. We have already done that. So if your API, it's up to you. If you are choosing your API to be protected by OAuth 2.0, then you have to use OAuth 2.0. If you just apply the basic, client ID enforcement policy, it will, even when I was, giving the demo, I mentioned that you can also use in my, that sequence diagram, we have that basic authentication, like, client ID enforcement policy can be used as well.
Okay, I see Saurav Goyal have a question. Is it possible to have some API secured by BSIDOC and some API secured by OAuth? Yeah, answer is yes. You can certainly have some by basic auth and some by OAuth. It is purely driven by what policy you are implementing against that API. One word of caution though, we are actually asking not to use basic auth, because basic auth is kind of getting deprecated as an industry standard. So even if you see some articles like in Google and Microsoft, they are coming up saying that basic auth is too vulnerable and we are not going to allow basic auth. So from a Mulesoft standpoint, what we are saying is the best practice is definitely do OAuth 2.0 for external facing APIs, experience APIs. For process and system APIs, at least at the least do client ID enforcement. Okay, I know that we are getting over, so we have 9 minutes, but we have an interesting part, which is the trivia. So let's do the trivia, and then if there is any other thing that will come up. So quickly, Aranna, can we do the trivia? Let's do the trivia. First question. It's good that everybody is muted, so everybody can only respond by chat. So whoever responds by chat first and is the correct answer will be eligible for the thing. We have 3 questions. Okay, so Aranna, are you ready?
Yeah, hold on.
So first question is going to come up. Please be ready. First question coming up.
Prashanjit, just confirm if you can see my screen.
Yeah, I can see your screen. Yeah, just be in the presenter mode. Okay, be in the presenter mode.
Yep.
Yeah, and don't show the next. So yeah, okay.
You can see, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So here is the first question.
Here is the first question. What is tokenization in Mulesoft? In which product SKU within Anypoint platform provides out-of-the-box tokenization service? Okay, I see a lot of answers. Still, I do not see the product SKU. RTF is the deployment model. I'm looking for what is the product SKU, which is literally what is the product. No, API manager is not the product. Access management is not a product, is a feature. Yeah. So think about this, that is something that doesn't comes out of the box, something that you have to purchase separately within the Anypoint platform. Yes, that's right. Anypoint security. I see the first answer coming from Thangaraj Duraiswamy. I think that is the first correct answer coming out. Yes. So yeah, that is right. So Anypoint security is a separate SKU for which you get out-of-the-box tokenization service, and it is correct that it is deployable in RTF as of now. We have it in our roadmap to have it deployed in the subsequent versions of the other versions of the deployment model in the near future. But as of now, it's there in RTF. But we were asking about which product SKU, and the correct answer is Anypoint security. Okay, we'll go to the next. So next question. Next question is coming up now. So yeah. So this is the next question. Where can someone reset the client secret in Anypoint platform? Where? The answer is where. Okay. Oh, I see answers here. So yeah, that's right. We can you show the answer now? Yeah, so it's Exchange My Applications API instance. So
you got the correct answer already?
Yeah, so we have the correct answer. I am just seeing who is the first person to get the correct answer. It's Shubhash Roy. Oh no, I'm sorry, wait. There is Anirban Guha, who has So Anirban Guha, I can see that is the first person who has come up with the correct answer. I know there's a lot of confusion that happens is whether this is API manager or API exchange. The correct answer is exchange.
Yep.
So
it's good to go for the next question.
Yeah, I'm having a dilemma actually. So Anirban spelled it correctly, And Tashin Muhammad actually, no, not Tashin. Somebody actually spelled exchange incorrectly, Akshay. So which should it go to? So I think since it's like, I think I should go with the correct spelling. So I'll do that with Anirban Guha. So let's be ready for the next question.
Yeah, and also be cautious with your typos.
Okay, it's a good question. What are the two network security policies you can apply out of the box in any point platform? Remember, network security policies. And you have to, okay, Akshay, you got it. Great. That's the challenge. That's a spirit. Right. So can we show the answer?
Yep.
Yes. So Akshay got it. So anyways, happy for Akshay because he got the first one, because he got the second one right too, but incorrect spelling. So thank you everybody for participating and highly appreciated. So Akshay, Anirban, and Thangaraj, can you please share your email addresses with me over the chat? It will be very helpful.
Your voice was breaking. Are you asking about the email ID?
Yeah, I'm asking about email ID for Anirban and Thangaraj, and I can see both of. Okay, I see all three. Thank you. Thank you. I see we have 2 more minutes, so I hope we are able to answer all the questions. Bharat, you are asking where do we submit a request for new topics? Excellent. Please email me to prasenjit.banerjee@mulesoft.com. So please send your requests to me, and also please share your feedback. Please share your feedback on Mulesoft meetups that we are doing from Chicago. If you're interested in participating and presenting in the meetups, we highly encourage participation. And if you participate, then you get a training certificate voucher as well. So please do consider that. If you are excited to present something, you can reach out to me directly, and we can figure that out. So hopefully you all stay safe, and see you in the next edition of the Mulesoft meetup. Thank you, Arannak, for spending the time with us.
Thanks everyone. Thanks for joining.
Thank you, Manik, for joining the meetup. I know you run the virtual meetups online, and you're also the Mulesoft ambassador. So thank you. Hope you enjoyed this edition of Mulesoft Chicago virtual meetup. Thank you. So we'll disconnect now. Thank you, everyone. Have a good day. Bye.